Welcome back to the WWE After Dark episode. It's me, your host, Luis Gonzalez, and today we're going to talk about some random shit. That's right, that's what the After Dark episode is all about. We talk about random stuff. Look, I'm just fucking with you guys. Okay, I can't be cursing that much here. I apologize. This is a paid programming, but I'm going to keep it down a little bit on the cursing. Maybe, maybe not. Listen, guys, today's episode is going to be just kind of a cornucopia of things. I'm trying to come together and think of some new content every week. And I have this little notepad that I just put kind of my thoughts in there, my random thoughts. And then I come here and do the show. And I think this week, I want to talk about this new era, guys. You know, we have the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era. And now they say that we're in the Netflix era, right? Oh, man, everybody's talking about eras these days. Era this, era that, you know. I'm coming in here, and this is my era. They really are driving home this era thing because obviously we label things as era, so they are too. And everybody was wondering, well, what is this era called? What are they going to call themselves? Are they going to self-name it like they have in the past? Is this going to be called the Netflix era? And just thinking about it by myself as I drive back home from work in my hour drive, my long commute here in Los Angeles. Guys, I think if I had to guess, and I'm bad at guessing here, if I had to guess, maybe this era that we're entering into, as cool and some great stuff we're getting, maybe it's going to come out as the ad era, the branded era. Okay, let's just take a step back and think of everything that's happened so far. Just the fact that they are super monetizing their stuff. Now, let me start off by saying, yes, they are a business. They have to make profit, but they are making moves aggressively. And I think it's the aggressive part, which again, listen, they're a business. They got to make money. I understand, but they are being aggressive to the point where we are starting to notice, you know, some businesses, they can increase their profits and do all these things to increase profit, but sometimes the consumers don't even realize it, or they'll do something to change something and we'll be like, oh, look at that. And then they forget it next week. But the amount of times and things they are continually to aggressively increase their ad revenue into a place where it has become more and more blatant, like websites. Remember a long time ago when you went to a website and you could read an article and it's no problem? You went from top to bottom and you're like, oh, I got the information I needed. You go on a website now and it is just littered with ads. You can't even go a paragraph without seeing an ad to the left, an ad to the right, and an ad just popping out at you. I mean, it is pretty egregious. And I'm definitely one of those people that use an ad blocker. But even if you don't have an ad blocker, taking a step back from wrestling, if you go through all these articles with ads and you're like, this is so annoying, and you have an iPhone, you can go to, you see the browser at the bottom where it's like, you know, blah, 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 blah.com. And then on the left, they have these little squares. If you push that little square when you're reading specifically an article, it'll have the option to say, hey, show reader. And I usually click show reader because then that will eliminate a lot of ads. So little tip, little trick there for you guys if you're just annoyed with ads as I am. But the point, what I'm trying to say is just the way that we saw how websites start inundating you with ads, and it's almost ruined the web experience so much. You know, anyway, what I'm trying to say is that WWE could potentially be moving in this direction. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but if they keep going to an aggressive place, this might be looked upon as the ad era. I mean, let's look at about all the deals that they've done. You know, they made $1 billion deal with Netflix. That's fine. That's cool. Makes sense. You know, they became part of a holding company, TKO, where they are now partnered with UFC together under this umbrella company, TKO. Okay, great. You know, let's create stability in the company, you know, and then we start introducing these Saudi matches. Okay. You know, everybody has their thoughts about this. Some like it, some don't. It's got some pushback for people who know and people who don't. They don't really mind. So it's kind of like a half and half reaction to that. But they are getting tons of money from having their matches there. They're getting tons of money for having unique belts, unique matches, unique things like that. They also have the Prime Hydration Station. right? New edition. They also have in SummerSlam, they had the Prime in the middle of the ring. Okay. And now we're moving into Netflix officially, right? We are now in a 3-hour show, which I think a lot of us kind of, at least in my circle and from what I hear, we like the 2 hours. It keeps things concise, tight. It keeps a nice, clean show. And the 3 hours is a lot when you put, life on the table as well, on the plate, right? But, you put it 3 hours because you'll have more ads. Okay. And then we also unveiled the new mat, which on the first day I talked about it in the last After Dark was how this thing was just covered with ads, even with having Fortnite right in the middle of the mat. Now, thank God, last Raw here, the middle of the ring didn't have an ad, so it looks like they're going to, those are going to change periodically. So depending on the event, depending on the special that day, maybe an advertiser will pay for a certain spot on that mat. But what I'm trying to say is we're starting to feel all of these changes little by little. I think there was some discussion that, hey, maybe they'll start putting ads on people's, the refs' shirt. Maybe they'll put it on wrestlers themselves. You see it in sports, right? For the longest time, like in the 90s and 2000s, they didn't have, these little badges and advertisers. And now like the NBA has it and other sports are starting to have it. And it's something that we've grown accustomed to, something that we can kind of see, but it doesn't take up too much space. I think it's just the fact that all of these things are happening so quickly, so aggressively is the thing that keeps perking my ears up, where it's like, okay, maybe good because this has been such a difficult time with at least in the US market here, things are more expensive, things cost more. And here the WWE is finding ways to make more money, to have profit. So the business side, good for them. But at what point will it become a detriment to the content itself? And I'm not saying it's reached that point yet. I did furl a little bit when I saw all of those ads on the mat. It's fine. You'll also see ads on the around the ring too, and those will periodically change dependent on the match. Like sometimes when there's a main event match, there will be a singular sponsor dedicated to that match. They'll go in like, hey, we want to have our eyes on the biggest match of the night, so they'll put them on the side of the ring. All of these things we've grown accustomed to. I'm just wondering how much further are we going to go? How much of the real estate of WWE is there left? Will there be branding on clothing? Will there be branding on the refs? Okay. But will there be branding on wrestlers? My mind is going to a negative place. Like, my God, what if they create a branded belt? They have these, and college football every year, they have the Cheez-It Bowl, the Bank of America Bowl. They have all these different branded bowls. And I'm like, man, if they needed more money, would they make a Pepsi belt, a Cheez-It, belt? Would they make some sort of event where, like, for this PLE, we're partnering up with Prime and we're doing a Prime belt? It could be part of the storyline where, Logan is making his own belt and blah, 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 blah. They could find a way to make it work, but how far are they going to go? Will they, how ridiculous it would be, but in another universe, would they create a wrestler based off a brand? Cheez-It Man, he's the baby face coming in to save the day to I don't know what, Coca-Cola Man. Coke Man. How far are we going to go to create first to market branding opportunities? I don't know. Obviously, I'm being facetious and I'm not exactly sure where it's going to go, but it's just something that has caught my attention, that we are really entering into an ad era of WWE. And it's interesting. What other moves, what other things are they going to do that's going to push them financially? And will that disrupt the narrative of it all? And we saw some of it that, first showing on Netflix, where they kept talking about Netflix and, it disrupted some storylines. Obviously, we've talked about it over and over about how Dwayne Johnson came out and ruined the whole Rock thing. I don't need to reiterate that. We all know that. But what else is going to happen? And they are very innovative at WWE. So there are things that I'm not even thinking of that they could potentially put. They could have behind the scene moments presented by this. Let's do a day in the life presented by, this internet company. Let's do, content that you want to see outside of it. You'll have to go to this special QR code if you want to see a special match. I think they did this with the speed belt, right? Like I think they have a partnership with X. Will they have more social forward content where you need to go somewhere else to get that content? Because that's what ads want. They want to have some sort of return, right? They want you to go to their website. They want you to click, and they want eyes on their product. So maybe, if you want to see some altercation, you got to go to Pepsi.com/WWE Kevin Owens or something, and you'll get to see Kevin Owens beat the shit out of Cody Rhodes at a Starbucks or at a movie theater. I don't know what, but it's just like there are these new opportunities coming out, and it's just a narrative that I'm seeing on my side that we're entering into this ad era. So who knows? We'll see where that goes. I'll continue keeping my eyes out. One thing that I will say is that watching Raw this time around, the commercials were gone because I don't typically watch it live. So when I watch it this time, it just fast forward right through without the commercials, which is great. Thank you. Thank you for listening to that. Also, because again, I said it last week, you can't keep commercials on in perpetuity and forever because you got to pay the actors, you got to pay the crew every 12 weeks or so for the usage of that commercial. So I'm happy to see that, hey, look, we figured this out. There aren't going to be commercials when I replay it. So that's good to see. That's all I'm going to talk about with the ads. I'm going to move away from that. I'm going to keep going on this new topic here that I'm going to report every week is the announcer table. This is catching my eye, okay? That announcer table is intense to me. It's beautiful. It looks great. And someone said it, I forget who said it, maybe it was on SmackDown. It is what did they say? The Cadillac of announce tables. It's in the Cadillac of announce tables. And it's true. It has these it looks like the setup of a PC player. It's got the RGB lights in the front, RGB lights in the back. It's reinforced. As Michael Cole also said, he kept repeating it over and over how reinforced this announcer table was. And I'm like, why are you telling that? Is there a reason why you're telling that? And I just want to know what it's going to look like when someone goes to that table, because right now it looks very difficult to put somebody through that table. And of course they could loosen some screws and it could just be a facade. But I mean, listen, I got to see it to believe it at this point. That thing is a monster to me. Maybe it's not to you, but to me, it's just like, wow, this thing has a lot of support to it. So I'm counting down the days. It's been 10 days since the new tables premiered that we have not had anybody go through those tables. Okay. Every week that they don't, I'm going to add to those days because I am so curious to see who will go through that table and what it will look like, because that thing looks like a beast, a beautiful beast, but a beast. Okay. That's enough about the Cadillac announcer table there. Be on the lookout for that. This is my new obsession for some reason. It's like too good. Remember when we used to have just like a tarp over a fold-up table and then it just became a little bit better? Now it's like, whoa, this is like Super Saiyan level 4 here. This is anyway, I'm going to move on. Okay. Before I started talking about the ad era and the announcer table, I was thinking in my mind, what do I want to talk about this week? And one of the things that I was thinking of was, it'd be cool would be to talk about the movies, like the movies that wrestlers were in. So I started compiling a list. I'm like, okay, I went to ChatGPT. I was like, ChatGPT, tell me all these wrestlers that have been in movies. Give me a whole list. I didn't realize how many movies there were. So I don't know if I'm going to commit to that because there are a ton of movies. If you like some wrestling movies, put it in the Discord. Let me know. I'll watch it. I'll talk about it. The reason why I bring this up is because the other day at work, somebody had Blade Trinity on. and Triple H is in that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right, he's in that. Huh. I wonder what other, Kane was in a movie, Undertaker. Obviously, John Cena and The Rock and Bautista, I feel like they don't count because they're just they are really performing. They have the long filmography at this point. But like all these other little wrestlers trying to break through, but they're a lot, y'all. It's a lot. So maybe for one of these After Darks, I'll, watch a really small movie with a wrestler in it and just kind of review it just for funs. But I was thinking, like, what could I talk about? Because we are in a transition period right now, as we leave. There's a lot of uncertainty leading up to Rumble and WrestleMania, so I didn't really know what to talk about. But I do think it's an interesting time that we're in a transition period after Raw. Where are we going with the Bloodline? Where does Rhea face? CM Punk? What's happening with The Rock? Who's Tiffy going to face? But I think the next thing I want to talk about here is storylines. I think the one that's kind of catching my eye right now is this whole Drew McIntyre business. In the last episode of Raw, he comes out and he's like, y'all, interrupting Seth and CM Punk. And just this triangle rivalry that's happening is so interesting to me because McIntyre is like, listen, y'all, I don't care about what's going on. We got to worry about Roman. And he's kind of framing him as like the big bad, the Thanos that we have to look out for. Like, y'all are having your quips and your whatever back and forth, but we got to worry about this guy. This guy's going to do some damage. I don't know what he means by that, but he really does seem very threatened. It reminds me of, again, like I said, a Thanos threat. I was like, wow, he really is trying to round up the troops to create some sort of army against Roman. And then we have Seth over here who just can't get over CM Punk. He's just, he's got nothing else on his mind but that. And then CM Punk just wants to live his life. He's like, please, I just want to get a belt. I just I came in here, I injured myself, and then I got it with Seth. I got it with CM. I mean, with Drew. Can I just do a title run, please? Can I just come out here and do what I want to do? But he keeps getting pulled into all this random stuff. I think that's hilarious to me. We know CM has a favor he's going to ask of Paul Heyman, and we'll see where that goes. But I just think that this triangle rivalry is kind of interesting right now. I think it's entertaining to me. I just think it's funny that CM is trying to move on with his life. Seth won't let him. And Drew's like, hey, y'all, there's this other thing. So you have three opposing forces they're pulling, they want to pull each other apart, but they're just kind of gravitating towards each other. Yeah. And then another thing, I'm glad that the Damian and Finn thing is wrapping up. If we wrapped up the Rhea Liv, let's wrap up this Damian and Finn. But dude, what an ending. Wow. I had a great time with this. I mean, the man was on a stretcher. Okay. He was on a stretcher and then he pulls him in and suplexes him on the floor, I believe. I'm like, my God, if this man literally was on the stretcher and he had a neck problem, I mean, the man is handicapped. He's paralyzed for life. How is this possible? These are superhuman beings fighting each other right now. But it was very entertaining to see it go down. Very aggressive. Even him doing a coup de grace on the table. Just like that, this last episode was pretty great. I had a great time with Raw and SmackDown recently, and I like that there was a return to form this past week to Raw, where we're going back to, promos and continuing narrations and always like behind the scenes storylines. I think we didn't have a lot of that in the first Raw episode. We had more of that in this episode. I think that is entertaining and important. So hopefully that's all wrapped up. Fatu, man, I'm so happy this guy's coming up more and more. I cannot wait till he's on his own solo run and he's just soaring on his own. I can't even imagine what that's going to be like. I'm excited for Fatu. He always gets me excited. Solo Sikoa, I guess, yeah, I mean, I know he's taking a break, vacation, I guess. Hey, you had a long time. Take a little break this week. But I always hate it when losers don't show up the next week. It just makes him lose respect for them more, It's like you lose, but show up, Don't not show. Like when Roman was gone for months and months, put a sour taste in my mouth. I understand he's taking on vacation and all these other things, and he has other things to do in life, but show up. I want to see you, what you have to say. I want to see what's going down. I mean, Seth did. Seth showed up, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that he came out and he said something to see him. You know, do I want this feud to go on? I don't know. But he showed up, and we got to see the reaction of all that. And I was looking forward to seeing what Solo was going to say. I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen with this rogue bloodline, the homeless bloodline, and like, what is going to happen here? I know they're going to stretch it out for whatever, but just give me some nuggets of info here. I want to see. I don't like you not showing up next week. Like, are you a man? Then show up next week and be there. Of course, I'm messing around here. So that's it for storylines. And I got two more things I want to talk about. Then I'll wrap up this random-esque episode of the After Dark. The random thoughts of Luis Gonzalez here. Do you guys see that ticker at the bottom of Raw? Where it's kind of telling you what's coming up, what has happened. And, you know, they're doing this to be more like sports entertainment when you've seen football and ESPN and things like that. They added this ticker, and I think they've done it in the past, but I just really noticed it this time. The one thing I wanted to say was I was reading the ticker, and it had Sammy versus The Miz coming up. And I was like, oh, okay, that's sure. I didn't know that was happening. Maybe that's just like a random exhibition that came up, and I didn't know. I know what the setup was, but sure. You know, I don't mind random exhibition matches. I think those are great. Let's have random exhibition matches without our rivalry, just to showcase some new talent, where we can create rivalry after that. Like from that, you know, things have to start from somewhere, and exhibition matches to show really great wrestling, great. But then later in the episode, you begin to see there was an altercation between Sammy and The Miz, and Sammy was like, all right, bro, let's fight, you and me. Let's go tonight, as if it was very spontaneous. But the ticker already spoiled that for me, that it was coming up. And so very tiny thing, probably 90% of the people didn't notice at all. And, you know, I'm sure production is fine tuning itself, but just something I noticed, that this ticker spoiled a storyline that was about to come up before it even happened. Very small detail. Another very small detail that no one cares but me is the drone. I love all this new stuff that they're doing. I love all the stuff that are adding to it with these flying camera angles that's whipping around, jibbing up, jibbing down, zooming, almost these impossible shots. You feel like Superman watching a match, you know, flying around, zipping here and zipping there. A lot of that stuff is great, and the drone is cool. I think the only thing I'd love, and you know, this is just the beginning, and things are only going to get better and better, is I cannot wait till we get a drone that has a better lens and a better sensor, because you can tell the difference. I mean, I'm a video editor and I work in video production, all that stuff. So I can clearly tell, like, oh, this is not crisp at all. Like, it really takes me out of the moment, because I look at that stuff all the time. You know, that's why. But I cannot wait for that drone to be updated. Right now, it's very tiny. When I saw it live at the LA's event, the thing is really tiny. And I'm surprised how they're able to transmit from that tiny drone to the truck and the van in the back, the broadcast van. So kudos to them for being able to make a tiny drone work to transmit something like that, because that thing is going through the arena, through those entrances, and coming. It's pretty crazy moves that it's making. God forbid it ever hits anybody. But drone operators are very, very good. It's very impressive what they can do. But anyway, you know, having a better lens, having a better sensor, it does make it bigger. It makes it heavier. It makes it a little bit more unwieldy. It could probably smack somebody in the head if it's bigger. So I get it why they're doing it. But man, I can't wait till it becomes crispier and cleaner. Right now it's a little muddled, and that's okay, because we don't live on those drone shots for too long. A lot better than the ref cam, I say. Again, if they're going to do that, just put that thing on the chest. I feel like you'll have a better chance of capturing what you need. All right, guys, that's today's episode. That's it. We're going to call it a wraps. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for listening. We talk about the new ad era, the way that I think about WWE coming up. But until next time, it's me, Luis Gonzalez. And if you want to check out my other podcast, it's called Punch Drunk Nerd, where we talk about movies, TV, video games, all that stuff. We're on all the podcast platforms at Punch Drunk Nerd. We have new episodes come out every Friday. It's just me, two other dudes, and, we're just having a good time. But again, it's been me, Luis Gonzalez. And until next week, I'll see you later.